Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Tim, what's going down, brother?
Yeah, I'm very well. I'm excited because our bookcases arrived today. So what you can't see is over here, there's a lot of books and things on the floor. So I'm excited to just get the environment set up a little bit more. We all know how important environment is. So yeah, I'm kind of, I just want to go down, get them, put them up. But
Sounds exciting.
it is, you know what I like? I like order. You
You
know
do.
that. So you can imagine, I'm like, So yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Got a sick baby here, which a lot of the guys have got kids understand. A lot goes on emotionally, but you also don't sleep when you have a sick child. So we're running through that. In fact, right next to me, I have a baby monitor sitting there. So it's the real deal. Watching the baby as she sleeps. My wife's taking our son to get a haircut. So, we practice what we preach here at the Powerful Man.
You sure do. On that note, I want to see if we can give Cody some insight and maybe even the listeners. So another episode, man, where we're responding to the topics that you guys have asked us to cover. So specifically the men in the Facebook group. If you want Doug and I to cover a topic or answer a question, then head over there. Just search the Powerful Man in the Facebook search bar, and then you can request to become a member of the group, and you'll see the post in there as well. If you just search for podcast or hashtag podcast, you will see it. And yeah, there's a lot of really great questions. So Cody, he had a few questions, and we've covered some of them on a previous episode. But the one I wanted to cover now was this one in particular. So the topic is when your wife slights you or throws digs over and over throughout the days and weeks, even in front of others at times. I will act like it doesn't bother me until the pressure cooker blows. I'm struggling with strategic ways of addressing it. Often when I attempt to address that I'm offended, she turns around and acts offended that I'm bringing it up. There's a few things there, isn't there?
There's a lot to unpack there. I'll take the first stab here, Tim. So, Cody, the way that I would handle this is I would bring it up right away. So if your wife gives you slights you or throws a dig, one of two things. If it's assuming it's bothering you, which it is, right? I would bring it up right then and there. Like, whoa, that's not okay what you just said. Right. And you got to understand, I have very strong boundaries that I've set for myself. And so I think that's a clear thing. Also, I know what are triggers and stories for me. And so I'm going to explain what each of those are as quickly as possible, although that can be a 3-week conversation here, Cody. One is, there's certain times when someone says a joke about you, right? So for example, if I say to Tim, you're purple, Tim's not going to react. It's like, that's stupid because I'm not purple. It makes no sense. However, if I say something about Tim that he's very sensitive about, and then he's going to react. If Tim believes it to be true, it will offend Tim if it's a negative thing. And the reason I share this with you, Cody, is one, I know those things about me that offend me and bother me, and I know why, right? It bothers me because it's an area I'm working on, or it's an area about me that's an issue, right, for me. An example. I lived by the beach growing up as a kid my whole life, but I can't tan. I go from white as a ghost to dark red. So all my yearbooks as a kid used to say, have a great summer, go get a tan. Every year. Drove me nuts. I tried everything. Here you have this kid, it's out there, a young kid trying to sunbathe and just getting burnt to a crisp so bad that I'd get blisters. I was so burnt. So that could be a trigger for me if somebody brings up my skin tone. Now, that's not an issue for me. I'm just using this as an example. So if my wife might say, oh, I love tanned men, I might get offended and triggered because it's not something I could ever be or do. And maybe it's a story I have. So not necessarily the best example, but I think you get where I'm going with this. So one is I would check in, why are you getting offended? Right? Is it real, or is it something you can just laugh off? So again, if I say, Tim, you're purple, and Tim just laughs, there's no joke, right? It's not really a joke. Or if Tim just looks at me deadpanned, Like, that's the dumbest thing anybody could ever say. It deflates me, right? He takes my power away, right? If Tim gets offended, I maintain the power. Tim just gave me power by getting offended. So I'm sharing that with you because there's probably a lot going on here, as my guess, between you and your wife that's going on. And probably a lot for you, quite honestly, that you haven't addressed or found out about. Obviously, we can't take you through an alpha reset during this podcast to uncover a lot of these things. However, that's one thing. So let's say, assuming you've done that and your wife's really, being a B, right? She's not being a good person and is really offending you. I would bring it up right away, right? So if my wife offends me and it offends me, I'm going to say, look, that's not cool. What you just said was mean and I don't like it. And here's why. And I'm just going to break it down I'm not in a mean way, but very stern. If you listen to the tone of my voice, this is how I would do it. Very stern, almost like a father talking to a child. Look, that's not cool. And that's not acceptable for me. Right. And you might even say, look, if this happens again, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to be in a relationship with somebody who demeans me. She's not willing to. Now, the fact that your wife acts like, she's offended that you're bringing it up makes me wonder if, your relationship has gone apart so much that you're getting easily offended, right? Maybe more so than you would if you guys were connected, right? So what happened with me and my wife, Cody, is when we were going through our hard times, I would get offended really easily by things she would do, mainly because I was misinterpreting things she was saying. She'd go like, I didn't mean it that way. And the worst part is when I would hold it in, which is what you're doing. And I did the same thing. And those things would start stacking on each other, right? The offenses. And then I would blow up and come to find out, according to her, these things that I was stacking up, she didn't mean. I took them the wrong way. Like, maybe it was something like she walked in, I opened the door for her to a party and she walked in right away and started talking to somebody and left me at the door, right? Connected nowadays, I'd be totally cool. I'd walk over there. I'd go do my own thing. Wouldn't matter. But back then I could have created a story. She doesn't want to be with me. She'd leave me by myself. I'm not good enough. She should wait for me to close the door since I opened it for her and then go introduce me to these people, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. Like, I would create a story about how wrong she is. Nowadays, if it bothered me, I'll use the same analogy. We go to a party, I open the door, she walks in, she goes to talk to somebody. If it bothers me, I'm going to take the first opportunity to pull her aside and say, hey, look, that really bothered me that when we walked in here, you went right over to talk to somebody. That really upsets me. And here's why. And now we can have a conversation. She could either say, I didn't want to be around you, or she could say, most likely, oh, I didn't know that upset you. I was just going to talk to Claire or whoever over here. I didn't even think about it. And now we can have an adult conversation about it. And then eventually I can get down to the bottom of why it really bothered me. Right? Why does it really upset me? And that's getting into triggers. We've done some podcasts around that. It's a little bit more an advanced topic than we're probably going to have time to dive in today. But that's where I would start. I know Tim's got a bunch of nuggets for you, so I'll flip it over to you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. The thing that comes up for me, Cody, I think what Doug finished on hits the nail on the head about sometimes when you're less connected, the things that wouldn't really bother you can just bother you, right? Maybe it's because you're feeling insecure in the relationship. Is she going to stick around? Is she going to leave? Maybe you've made advances for sex. She's rejected you, whatever, right? So I want you to imagine a triangle. You've probably heard us talk about living from the inside out and the path of power, right? When you're living from the inside out, the five territories are organized with self at the base of that pyramid. Imagine the pyramid being in 5 layers. Self is at the base. Above that is health, and then it goes relationships, then wealth and business. And the reason for that is because when you focus on the territories of self and health before the relationship, it puts you in a position whereby you can enter in the relationship in a much more grounded, confident, clear, decisive position. right? And that feeds into the triggers, which Doug was talking about. It's why one of the first exercises we guide the men through when they join the activation method is something called the shadow stick man. It's all around becoming aware of the triggers that are usually unconscious so that you can bring the unconscious into the conscious. It's like kind of shining a spotlight in the darkness. So you can see what's there and illuminate it, right? And when you can do that, the things don't really trigger you that much. So imagine you doing that, like Doug was saying, and then you were also working out, right? You were taking control of your day. You were also filling your day and your week with things that you wanted to do, not being reckless and avoiding your responsibilities, but maybe that skydive you've been wanting to do, you book it. Joining that gym you've been wanting to go to, you start going. Contacting that friend that you wanted to hang out with that you promised you'd go away with, you go away with him. What this is going to do is start to fill your cup. It's going to rebuild your confidence, your sense of joy, your sense of freedom. And then you can take that into the relationship because chances are, I bet that's the kind of man that your wife fell in love with when you guys first got together. That kind of guy that's full, that's playful, that's maybe a bit cocky, a bit confident. And you can take that with us into the relationship. So when these situations come up, what if, just imagine if instead of reacting, you were able to laugh them off or say something playful when she's throwing that dig at you. And what if you were able to turn it into a joke, right? Example, one that's happened to me recently. I was, making some advances on Amelia. We're in bed making some advances. I can't remember what she said something along the lines of, you're always trying it on, something like that. And I said, listen, if I was trying it on, you'd know about it. I'm just toying with you right now. Something like that, just to keep the frame and keep the playfulness and keep the lightheartedness about it, rather than being like, oh, do you think I'm being needy or a perv or whatever, right? So the reality is when you're in that place of confidence and you're full and you're doing things you want to do, it really helps you to be able to deflect these digs instead of own these digs, right? Imagine a martial arts, right? You use their force against them, don't you? So imagine your wife is coming at you. When you're in that place of playfulness and confidence, that's when you can use her force against her. And she's charging towards you with a dig, and instead of it hitting you, it kind of bounces off you and she ends up on the floor, right? Whereas the person that's too rigid in martial arts, the person that isn't able to move, doesn't really read what's going on and gets taken down or gets hit or gets injured and gets knocked off balance. So if I was you, I'd be looking at doing that. Bring back that playfulness and cockiness so that, if she wants to slight you, turn it around. If she says something that hurts you in front of other people, bring it up or maybe turn it around a little bit. Not so that it's a dig, but just to know that, okay, if she's going to try and come at you with things, she's going to get something in return. And she's going to respect you for that because by default, you're going to have boundaries. Don't start making fun of her in front of her friends too much to the point whereby she's like, hey. But, if you want to just lay a few little things down there whilst being playful, then, you could do that. Just don't go in too hard. So yeah, that's what I've got for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, honestly, probably my guess is what's occurring here is, you guys are so disconnected. And during that process, what happens for a lot of us guys is we lose sight of who we are as men. And we forget our kind of true power within us. And honestly, and probably because I'm in the mindset of I'm getting prepared to go down to Florida to lead the Alpha Reset down there coming up in a little bit. The Alpha Reset's by far the best way to do that, is to get anchored into your lighthouse, into your power, where you can have that place where those things bounce off you like Teflon. Again, she's doing a slight and you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter because I'm so solid within who I am as a man. It just doesn't bother me. If Tim says, Doug, you're too direct, I might say, Yeah, I'm direct because I don't have time to waste. I got lots I'm doing in my life. Or I could be like, you're too direct. Oh my gosh, what is he saying about me? It's very different when you come from a place of power, right? That you feel very good and confident about who you are as a man. You become the prize, right? You become the prize because, your wife starts chasing you. Everybody starts chasing you because you're going after life by the cojones, you're going after it. So first of all, I got to give you nothing but props for stepping up and posting that. I have nothing but respect. We've got both your questions in there, which was awesome. But take a couple of these points, go back and listen through this and take a few bullet points and start applying and start putting it to work. And let us all know how it's going. Give us a follow-up and let us know how it's going with her. My guess is you're going to see things turning around here pretty quickly. Tim, anything else?
No, I just acknowledge you for reaching out and raising your hand. I know it can be hard, and you've really shared a lot, from this episode to the other one that we shared. Shout out to Gabe Hutchins for, giving some great advice as well. And also Jeremy Van de Gupten, two amazing men there. But yeah, just keep showing up, Cody. And if you need any more support, then just let us know in the Facebook group and we can see what we can do.
Awesome. Gentlemen, make sure go over there to the Facebook group, post your questions, anything that's coming up for you. Tim and I will do our best job to work through those through the coming months as we go through them. And guys, as always, take massive action. When you get a point of insight, take action and move forward. That's a wrap for us here at the Powerful Man Show, guys. We'll see you next time. Make it a great week.